Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for finding some time in your busy schedules to join me today so that we can talk about a subject that's a common subject in every organization, in every business, in every industry across not only Australia but across the world. It's performance, it's efficiency, it's professionalism, but with the aim of how can we make that better? How can we become a high-performing team? How can we become a highly performing individuals? Well, basically, to improve the team's achievement, the team's contribution, we maybe can look at this in a little bit of a different way. We can make a goal setting a team activity. We actively engage to understand what we need to accomplish. That's where the team leader is a very important factor in translating and filtering the organizational goals down to the team plans and then to each individual staff member. So the idea is that we can first improve our team's performance by taking a new approach to goal setting. Currently, 3 out of 4 employees set goals in isolation with their managers. But this approach falls short for teams. So this is why we want to take this approach and explore this possibility so that we can see a better benefits to it. Team performance requires us to understand how we are accountable to the priorities of the team in addition to your individual priorities. What we ideally want to see that they connect at some level. To build this clarity effectively, we need to be actively engaging team leaders and staff with each other as well to determine what we all will accomplish. We need an open discussion to understand your priorities. And they sometimes might differ. They might be relating to career progression. And that is okay. We can incorporate that into your personal development goals. That will identify what actions do you need to take to get you ready for that next step. Perhaps above and beyond mindset. That in another way we can say to be more in service. And that is beneficial, not only from the developmental point of view of you developing, but it's preparing you for another position. It's showing the attitude of a high performer as well. And this way, when we look at the team goals or individual goals in this way, it gives you the opportunity to discuss and challenge each other as you determine whether each of your goals cover the right priorities and are sufficiently ambitious to achieve the results. Now, we can look at, before I go into that questions, I just want to touch on that active engagement, which is basically the definition of what I was talking about just before. If we get these steps right, if we have the above and beyond mindset, if we collaborate with each other, discuss where we sit in relation to our goals and how they reflect our operational goals, our team goals, if we contribute and engage actively in this way, this is the active engagement. This is how we move everything forward. And now to what I just mentioned before. These are some questions that you can draw down and we can discuss them later after this presentation. It's a number of questions for reflections. They can basically assist you to assess how you contribute, how your goals contribute to the overall organizational goals and the vision. I will give you a couple of minutes. Let me know when you look at them. You don't have to write all of them down. After this presentation, we can go back to them. We can discuss them. We can offer different opinions on it, different perspectives, and we can look at them in more detail and look at them in action, how they apply really directly to everyday situation, to achievement or to producing your goals. Now, one of the things is how we're going to do this, how we're going to improve our performance management. We're going to have the check-ins, formal and informal. We do that, but this is just what I want to state as our responsibility, my responsibility, leaders' responsibility, staff responsibility as well. This is active involvement of every part, staff, leaders in performance management, in you, from your perspective, managing your own performance. Team leader, providing support, guidance, encouragement, appreciation, moving everything forward in a direct direction that we all want. So we will have the regular informal, formal check-ins to discuss our performance and how we are trending against our goals, individually and as a team. This forms a part of our performance context. Key role is understanding and communicating the performance. So we will discuss your performance against relevant business objectives. And this is a conduit to first us understanding what the performance is. What is it that we want to achieve? When we are clear with that, this step will be much easier. And we're going to identify the priorities where there are collective capability gaps of the team. One is the individual, but one is when we get together as a team and see what are we lacking? Where do we need to improve as a team? And how are we going to do that? We are joining forces into the synergy that way. 1 + 1, that way it's not 2. 1 + 1 is highly bigger than 2 because that is the power of synergy. And that's what we're going to leverage off. Now, what can be behind it is the attitude and behaviors. Our personal mindset. We usually like to think it's about the professional identity that we have at work. But what underpins all that is the attitudes and behaviors. And you'll hear people talk about it a lot. But how do we improve that? And this will have benefit in your personal and professional lives. And this is called personal development. And we can look at some core values and core habits that were there throughout the history of humanity that underpin successful people. Stephen Covey calls it 7 habits of highly successful people. We look and can look into that in more detail, one by one. But for this purpose, I will mention some of these values and habits, and you can look at them on the board. You can see them already. It's appreciation. It's gratitude, understanding. For example, Stephen Covey says, seek to understand first before you are understood. So let's open ourselves outwards. Let's understand others. Let's express appreciation to each other more. Let's celebrate success through that. Gratitude. Let's give each other importance. Specifically how we can do that and look at it in more detail, and this is just an example, the sphere of personal development is quite large and people grow and develop throughout their whole lives. That journey doesn't end until one's journey ends. So one thing that's very useful, and I found it useful in my own personal life and professional life, is mindfulness. It's the building of resilience, emotional resilience. Become stronger to that. With mindfulness, become less reactive. Therefore, become more understanding. Therefore, you will have certain inner peace that will act positively in expressing appreciation and gratitude. This is how we succeed. This is how we become highly efficient. This is how we become not highly productive, collaborative, professional, not only as individuals, but as teams, ultimately as an organization. This will flow on in your personal life. If you're highly efficient at work, if you're highly successful, this flows on. That's the effect of that. And that's why personal development also is important. So, I'm happy to hear the thoughts. I'm happy to reflect further on this. Let's discuss it as a team. How can we achieve this? How can we become the highly efficient, highly professional team? So, please, let's go, let me hear, and we will go back to those questions, and we will use them as a guidance.